guys! So I have before me two beautiful 2021 Hobonichi Weeks, and I thought that it would be a good idea to do a 2021 Weeks walkthrough with you for a few reasons. One is if you've never had a Weeks before and you're considering getting one for the coming year and you just want to see what the layout looks like. Another one is if you've had one maybe a couple of years ago and you're curious to see what the 2021 edition looks like. And the third reason is if you're like me and you just cannot get enough of Hobonichi walkthroughs, because no matter whether you've had one every year or not, you just like to hear other people's opinions and see them walking through their various Hobonichis and discussing them. So as you may know, if you have seen my recent video on my Hobonichi haul from last week, I ended up ordering 3 different weeks because I had a big dilemma. 2 of them are the Swallows design and one is Embrace the Constellations. So I ended up deciding to go with the Embrace the Constellations from my 2021 weeks, and I gave one of the Swallows weeks to my friend and the other one is going to my partner James, who's going to use his as a health and fitness tracker. So I'll just quickly show you the outside of both of these since I've got them here with me, and then we'll do a walkthrough of the layout, since the layout is the same for both of them. So these are both standard weeks, which means that they have the full yearly weekly spreads and then they have 71 notes pages. And the Swallows Weeks is from the bow and tie line, which means that it's made from the same fabric as neckties, so it has this really nice soft feel. And you can see that there are lots of beautiful swallows flying in different directions. And this is what the side looks like. So there's one here on the side which has a flower in its mouth. Don't get me started about the flowers, that's a whole other topic. The placement of the flowers. And this is the Embrace the Constellations Weeks, which has a very nice hardbound book kind of feel almost. It's a little bit flexible, but the feeling is kind of like a canvas, I would say. It's a really, really nice feeling. I'm very impressed with it. It's not quite like the feeling of the basic colors range of the weeks, if you're familiar with those. It feels, yeah, a little bit more like a hardbound book or a canvas. So I think that this one is absolutely stunning, and for some reason I haven't seen many of these on YouTube. This is what the whole thing looks like. So you can see the year is in gold, and then you've got all of these different constellations that you can see if you look at them in detail. So like, for example, this is Libra and this is Cancer and this is Virgo. It's really cool, and it's based on a 400-year-old star chart illustration, and I just think it's absolutely beautiful, and I'm really looking forward to setting this up and using it as my personal planner. So let's just walk through this. As usual with the standard weeks that aren't part of a collab, the inside cover just says Hobo, 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 and I really like this design. And then you get Hobonichi Techo 2021 Weeks. So the artistic and kind of more fun and adventurous designs only come in the standard weeks. There's also a Mega Weeks which has 3 times the note paper in the back, but it only comes in the plain colors and in a soft bound version which is called the Sneaker Weeks, but also only comes in solid colors. So I really like the standard weeks because of all of the amazing cover options that you can get. Then you've got this yearly layout where you have the previous year, so 2020, the year that's just finishing, the current year, which is bigger, and then the following year. So the biggest one is 2021, and then you've got 2022. And that takes up a little bit more than half of the page, the current year. And as always, you have a Monday start, and then Sundays are in red, and Japanese holidays are also marked in red. Then if we go on to the next spread, you have a yearly tracker or a yearly overview. I just wanted to mention that as I use fountain pens in my weeks, I do actually use the spread. I think a lot of people just use this for reference, which I do too, but I also use it to mark the day when I have replaced the ink in my fountain pen so that I can keep track of it, and it also makes a pretty little pattern so that by the end of the year I have this nice visual reminder of how often I needed to replace the ink in my fountain pens, and it's usually all different colors, so I like to do that. That's what I always use this layout for. Then This spread you can use for a lot of different things. So personally, I use this as a medicine tracker because I take a couple of different types of medicine, and I just like to make sure that I record when I've taken it so that I know how often I've taken it, and I can see the last time I took it. But a lot of people like to use this for a habit tracker. So, you could use it for fitness. You could also use it for checking your bank balance, which I have done in the past. So you just write down your bank balance every day. And it has a lot of different uses. I think it's a really versatile spread, and I love it a lot, and I find it to be very functional. Then we have our month on 2-page spreads. So it starts with December of the previous year. So if, like me, you plan to move into your weeks as soon as possible, that would mean the end of November 2020. It starts on the first full week of December. So the 30th of November in this case. And so you've got a full spread for December, and then it goes through until the March of the following year. So March 2022, which is really quite a staggering thought. So for each of these spreads, it's a Monday start. The days that do not belong to that month are in gray, and Sundays are in red. And it's a gridded layout, like most Hobonichi layouts. And then you have a little bit of space on the left here and at the bottom, and then there are 4 check boxes on the bottom right. So I use my weeks as my personal planner and tracker, and I use the monthly spreads for tracking rather than for forward planning. I have tried using them for forward planning in the past, but I think just the way that I use these planners, for some reason that doesn't work for me. And instead I use it to track household chores when they've been done. So when our dogs have been given their flea medicine and their worm medicine, when they've been to the vet, when they've had their vaccinations, when we've changed the bins, that kind of thing. So things that I want to remember and be able to look back and check and see, like, when do I need to do that next? That's what I use this for. And I also use it as an online order tracker. So I put my orders down at the bottom here, and sometimes I will use this for notes, just if there's something that I want to remember during the month and I'm not sure exactly where to put it. It's quite nice to have this space here. It's a bit narrow, but there's enough room to make it work. I've also in the past used this as a menu planner, which never goes well with me because I'm terrible at menu planning, but it's a good place to do it if you like to menu plan. Obviously, you can also use it as a forward planner. And I've also used it for gratitude journaling because it's a nice little place here where you can write one thing or a few things, or you can write one thing and then, like kind of a little blurb about it. So there are a lot of good uses for the monthly spread as well. And that's what it looks like as you continue on. One thing that I think is nice about these is that there's always a full box for every day, no matter where in the week the month starts. So you can see that in May of 2021, the month starts towards the end of the week, and then you get the situation here where you have like one extra day on another line. So they never divide it in half with the the split boxes, which some people find really annoying. Instead, you get a full box and you just get a bit of space taken out of this notes page, this kind of note space down here, which I think is fine. It also labels Japanese holidays, but I think that's fine because they're very unobtrusive, so you can easily write over them and it's not a distraction. So then we get to the weekly spreads. And this is really the core of this planner, obviously, as it's called the weeks. And so you can see here, this year it starts on the 30th of November, which is a Monday. You have these little tabs on the right that tell you what month you're in. So I personally never use these just because I feel like I don't really need them. I always keep one of the bookmarks or both of the bookmarks on the current weekly spread, and I feel like I don't need to go back and forth too much to check. But I think it's a nice feature that they have these. So if you do need to skip between months or you want to know where the next month starts, you can use these tabs. And you can also get tabs for marking the months on the Hobonichi website. So there's some really cool features in this, one of which is the fact that it labels the moon phases of every day, which is something that I've always kind of liked, but I never really paid attention to until recently when I, for some reason, just started getting into moon phases. And I'm now really enjoying that every day I can check and see what the moon phase is. So this weekly spread obviously has a Monday start, Monday till Sunday. Sundays are in red, and it's not actually lined or gridded. So you can see that the right side here is gridded, but this side is just blank. However, because the paper is so thin, you can see when I'm holding this up on its own that there are no grid lines, but as soon as I put it down on the previous, when you can see through the previous spread, and then you can actually use the grid lines on the previous page as a guideline. So even though it's blank, if you prefer having grid lines like I do, it's not really a problem because you can see through easily. So something that I think most viewers know, but I'll just mention again, is that this planner is made out of Tomoe river paper, like other Hobonichi planners, and that means that the paper is very thin. It's 52 GSM, but it is extremely fountain pen friendly. So it goes, but it doesn't bleed through. And you can also use other media like watercolors and other paints in it. So you also can see that there are these two little dots, a third of the way and 2/3 of the way through the horizontal box here, and that is so that you can divide it. And I have done this in the past. I've divided each day into 3 sections, so you could make it morning, afternoon, evening, and schedule your appointments by time of day. Or if you wanted to use it in a different way, you could say this is for, let's say, gratitude, this is for weather, and this is for exercise tracking, let's say. There are a lot of different ways that you can use these, or you can just ignore them because they're very subtle, and so I haven't been using them recently. I have gone through phases in previous years where I have divided the pages like this, so you can just use a ruler to, you know, kind of block this out, and this will become one column. But I haven't used it like that recently, and I just forget that they're there. So what I do personally is I put timed appointments on this side, and then I put to-dos that just have to be done sometime during the week, or random notes on the right-hand side. So you've got your days here in the space that you can use however you want, and then at the bottom you have a quote, which usually spreads over to the second side. And this is something that I don't personally find useful because I would rather have notes pages, but I mean like note space, but this is kind of a well-loved feature of Hobonichi, so it's kind of, you know, it's fine, it doesn't really bother me. And then on the right hand side we've got this blank grid page, which you can either use as an extension of the horizontal day. You could just make a really long, you know, kind of horizontal box here that spreads over both pages, or you can use this like I do for notes and to-do lists and shopping lists that are not day specific necessarily. And then there's also this cool feature, which is a solid line running about 1/3 of the way through the page from the left, as opposed to the rest of the lines, which are dotted grids. And you can use this to either draw your own line in pen over this, or just to use this as a kind of reminder that you can have headings here. Let's say if you wanted to have topics in this part of the page and then have notes on this side of the page, you could use this line like that. But again, if you don't want to use it, you can just ignore it. That's what I do. I don't use this line, and it very easily just kind of fades from my consciousness. And then at the bottom right, you have this little monthly calendar where it marks off the current week. So one other thing that I should mention about this is the paper. The paper on this is quite creamy, as opposed to the Cousin and the A6 Hobonichi, where it's much more of a bright white. And apparently the rationale behind that is that the Weeks is expected to be used as an on-the-go planner, and if you're taking it outside a lot, that if the sun shines on it, the creamy paper will kind of absorb the sun, so it won't be as bright in your eyes. I like the creamy paper and also the white paper, so I love everything Hobonichi related. So as you can see, this just continues on like this. Another nice feature that this has is that it marks the week number at the top right of the left-hand spread. So you see this says December 2020. It has it in English and in Japanese. Most of the writing here is bilingual. So it says 51st week, and then when we switch over to January, it will say first week. And then it kind of continues like that throughout the year. So again, you see you have all of these beautiful moon phases on every day, which I think is really cool, because a lot of planners will give you moon phases, but only at certain points, like the crescent moon and then the half full moon and then the full moon, but this one gives it to you every day. So I think that's really cool. And then you can see that this is like marking April, the 4th month, and this is marking July. So you continue to have this here on this side, and then it also will label the month at the top left as well. So this is what the weeks look like, and there are no differences that I can see from last year. Everything looks exactly the same as it did in terms of layout. So then we get to the last week, which is the end of December and the very beginning of January 2022. And then we have this page which gives you some abbreviations like LOL and MTG for meeting, which I've never really used, but I just like this page because it kind of reminds me that this is the boundary between the planner and the beginning of the notes pages. And then you have this page here that says note, and then it has like an index, which I have used occasionally, but I haven't used it for a few years because usually I can find my way around. I kind of know where things are, but I might use it again this year because I'm going to be quite careful about using each page for a dedicated topic in terms of lists and longer term notes. So it says page here and then subject, and it gives you, I think, about 12 of these lines. But you could always extend the index if you wanted to. And then we get to one of the features that makes the weeks truly glorious, because despite the fact that it is so slim, this is what it looks like. Look how thin that is. It's just really, really tiny compared to any other planner that you could imagine. Extremely thin. It has 71 notes pages, and they are blank, dotted grid pages, and they're numbered. So it's just super convenient because you can really do whatever you want with this, and it gives you quite a lot of room. So that's page 1, page 2, and it just continues on like this. You have this same line that you get on the right side of the weekly spreads, where there's this solid line interrupting the dotted grid boxes around a third of the way through, which you can ignore if you want, or you can use for subject headings if you want. And so it continues like this until page 71. So if you wanted to use this for something like weekly, like kind of daily planning, which I have done before, you have more than one spread per week. So if you wanted to make like kind of bullet journaling spreads where you say this is like where your weekly plans and shopping lists and things like that go, and then this is where you write out your daily lists, you could do that and you would still have about 20 pages left over for extra topics like you know, just collections. But you'd kind of need to make, yeah, like you'd kind of designate, let's see, 52, one page per week. So you could do it like that. If you wanted to have 2 pages per week, then it would be better to use the Mega Weeks, which has got 212 note pages instead of 71. Or you could just use this for lists, which is what I'm going to do. So I am going to use it for, like, say, okay, page 1 is TV shows that I want to watch. Page 2 is films that I want to watch. Page 3 is planner websites that I want to remember, etc. That's what I'm going to use it for. And because this is my personal planner, I'm basically just going to put in everything in here that is not work related and is also not related to my planner hobby, because that has a separate planner, obviously, my planner. So when I said planner shops that I want to remember, actually no, that wouldn't go in here. That would go in my planner. So then at the end, it has another couple of really cool features. So this is just this like page that they've had for the last couple of years that gives you space to write in like how much measurements of like body parts. So like how long your foot is and like how long the space between your arms are, which I have never used, I must admit. And then this is the list. It's called My 100, and I think this is a fantastic list because you can use this for all kinds of things. So you can use it for things like films that you want to see, or books that you have read, or films that you have seen, or either things that you want to remember, or things that are upcoming, or things that you want to track. And I just think it has a lot of potential, and you see every 10th space is marked in bold. It's like a black circle around it, so you can easily see, you know, if you wanted to put things into groups of 10. I think that's really cool. And then you can put a title here. So I've used this for all kinds of things in previous years when they've had this. I've used it for TV shows that I want to watch, podcasts that I want to listen to, websites to remember, any kind of like easy access thing that I just want to be able to find straight away and know that it's here at the end. And then it has some information pages which are really like only kind of that interesting if you can read Japanese. Otherwise they're like kind of cute pictures, but it's not, you know, really that useful. And then it has one about posture. And then it has some information like about what age somebody is, depending on the year they were born. So if you know that someone is born in like 1997, then they are 24, for example. And then it has some space where you can put in a few essential contacts, and then it has space for your own personal information. And then it has this little unique number, which is like your Hobonichi unique stamp. And it says, thank you for 20th. So because it's the 20th anniversary this year, which I think is really cute. And then you've got this back end paper, and that's the end. So yes, I am going to be using this with a Salty Katie jelly cover, and let me just show you how it looks because it is absolutely stunning. And I think that in particular this Constellations Weeks looks really, really cool with this jelly cover because it has these holographic stars, and that fits in perfectly with the Constellations theme. So behold the beauty. I really, really love this. So yeah, I'm excited to get this set up, and I'm going to be using this with stickers because the Weeks is so thin that even if you put a whole bunch of stickers in it and it chunks up a lot, it still remains relatively thin and portable. So I'm going to be having fun with that, and I'll show it to you again once it's set up. So there you are, the Hobonichi Weeks Standard Edition 2021. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I will be back soon with another video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Bye!